David Icke.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Well, I'm coming on all emotional. Thanks very much. Yeah, it's been a heck of a journey, and my God, there's still a long way to go yet. I ain't finished yet, the old guy. And thanks for coming to Wembley. First time I'd forgotten until I came to look around the place when we were thinking of coming here, but I played football where you're sitting in 1967 as a 15-year-old when my club, Coventry City, had a brain fade and sent their youth team to a national five-a-side tournament full of international footballers. And they used to call me Cinderella because I kept missing the ball that night, you know what I mean? And we played Manchester City. Younger people might not remember them. They were great stars of the time, Mike Summerby, Colin Bell, and many others. And they beat us 3-0. And I still can't remember seeing the bloody ball and where it went. So first time I came here, we got beat 3-0. I hope for a score draw today on a very much longer appearance than the few minutes in that game. Well, I say a lot longer. I'd like to thank you for coming to Wembley. I'd like to thank everybody around the world watching this. But really, I'm not going to keep you long because I've really only got one thing to say. There it is. All the world is mad. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for coming. Hope you've enjoyed it. Well, I'll put a bit of detail on it, but pretty much that's it. And you know what? One of the great breakthroughs is when you realize, as you awaken, it's the world that's freaking mad, not you. That's the breakthrough. And so we have, I love this, I tried being normal once, it was the worst 5 minutes of my life. And if you're considered sane and credible and normal to a world that is insane, then you've got a problem. So, welcome to the crazy ones today, to Wembley and from around the world. As Krishnamurti said, it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And this great guy, Frederick Douglass, a great campaigner in America against slavery. I prefer to be true to myself, even at the hazard of incurring ridicule, don't know what that's like, rather than to be false and incur my own abhorrence. When it is uncomfortable, when it is unpopular, even when it is dangerous to speak the truth, is precisely the time that truth should be spoken. And this is precisely the time. And it's very easy. It's a great saying, this, not mine. It takes nothing to join the crowd. It takes everything to stand alone. That's when the true self expresses itself. And standing alone also in a world of clinical insanity. When crazy is the new norm. And if you're not crazy to the system, then you are not playing the game of the system. And it takes some standing up with all the tidal wave of pressure to conform. And that's an image you're going to see quite a lot of. Because this world is mad because it's run by crazy people. Not only people as we would perceive human people, it is run by crazy other kinds of people in other kinds of dimensions. And what you have is these crazies, this force of crazy, which is operating behind the scenes where no one sees it, and anyone mentions it, you're mad. They don't exist. And putting up front, out in the world that we see, are more bloody crazies. We call these people politicians, for instance. Crazy people who think that pepper bombing cities of civilians is protecting them from violence. Did I miss something? There's Hillary, another one of them, another crazy, wants to kill everybody and maim and slaughter. And then, these are some crazies. These are the people that lend us money that doesn't exist and charge us interest on it. But who's crazier than them? We stand for it! Enough! Enough of standing for the crazies! We have doctors who are arbiters of life and death, health and ill health, who don't even know what the human body is, never mind how it works. Mind you, the drug companies will tell them that's enough. We have babies in the first 18 months of life with their immune system still developing, being hit by a tidal wave of poison and shite. And the world isn't crazy. We have teachers telling young people to believe what they were programmed to believe and what they must teach if they're going to keep their job in a state-imposed curriculum dictating what's right and wrong, historically true, and all the rest of it. So we turn out young kids, bright wonder of the world, this new world they're in, bright thinking, imaginative kids, and we put them through a sausage machine and turn them out the other end. And I tell you what, the very fact that so many young people are waking up and seeing the system despite going through this shows the power of consciousness over programming. And then we have religions. Everyone to their own, but I personally think it's crazy within the greatness and infinity of forever to believe that all you need to know is between the covers of one book written by who knows when, in who knows what circumstances, and changed and manipulated by who knows who in the time between then and now. I think that's just a bit crazy. And then we have the crazies called scientists, most of whom spend their time not exploring the mysteries of reality, but in devising more and more effective ways to technologically kill more and more people and to poison more and more people through food additives and drugs. I think that's crazy. All the stuff. And then we've now got to crazy where in airports around America and some other places, and they want it play it out everywhere, when you get on an aeroplane, you've got the choice between being irradiated or sexually molested, including your kids. And they say, I'm mad. Did I miss something? And then all the time we got more and more surveillance. This plaque here says George Orwell lived here. And now, did you see that story the other week? More than 200 schools in Britain have got surveillance cameras in the frigging toilets and changing rooms. The world, crazy is just not the word. Have you come across these Intelli streets? They're now introducing them. Intelli streets. They have not only the ability to bark out orders to you through the technology involved, but they can not only listen into your conversations in the street, they can record the buggers. And then they've got all this kit in the sky, we have legislation now in America, land of the free, where the president can and the military can arrest anyone they want and keep them without charge or trial or public evidence when they think they are a suspected terrorist. Who decides that? The people that arrest them. And then we have Mr. Nobel Peace Prize. I collapsed once in a hotel room. And I woke up, I wondered what the hell was going on, and I got my kind of mind together, and I thought, what happened? And I thought, well, the telly was on and the news, and the last thing I remember hearing on the news was Barack Obama's won the Nobel Peace Prize, and then it all went bloody black. I mean, mind you, Nobel, what did he do? He made explosives or weapons, I guess, you know, topsy-turvy world. And now he can sign lists, does all the time, and then they go and kill people, including American citizens, without anything in terms of a judicial process. And this is the craziest thing, isn't it? The biggest terrorists on planet Earth live in the political centers of power, like Downing Street and Washington. The biggest terrorists on Earth have the nerve to run a war on terror. All they need is a friggin' mirror. This wonderful, wonderful picture. You talk to people through your life. How many people want war? How many people want to see people slaughtered? Some morons, yes, but how many? Very few compared with the population. We don't want war, but we have them, one after the other, because the crazies want them. We have given our power, human race, to the crazies who sit in front of computer screens in Air Force bases in places like Nevada, and they press their buttons, and thousands of miles away, their drone aircraft send out missiles. Oh, I've got one, Bill. I'm on the next level now. And this is what's happening at the other end. Thousands of civilians being killed. This world is insane. We have, because of cold, calculated recruitment over a long period of time now, an increasingly brutal police force. We have people being arrested in America for feeding the homeless when people are hungry, starving, and living in tents and cars. What will I grow up to be, Mummy? That's a bloody question worth asking when we look at where we are compared with where they want to take us. The future is here. You know, I've been standing on stages, not as big as this one, but I've been standing on stages and writing books for all these bloody years saying this Orwellian fascist dictatorship is coming. Not because I'm a prophet, no, but because if you can access a projected agenda and where it wants to take the world, then if nothing intervenes to stop it, it's going to happen. That makes predicting the future a piece of cake. There's nothing to it, as long as you know where they want to take us. And the media, well, they ain't going to tell us any of this stuff, the mainstream media, because they're owned by the crazies. Here's a news bulletin for you. There you go. Here's the latest news. Good evening, this is the news. The headlines tonight. Bollocks, 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 shit. Now here's Bill with the weather. That's it. That's it. That's it. You clap, you're awake. Right. Or you wouldn't bloody be here. But vast numbers of people get their minds from this crap, and therefore they become increasingly as crazy as the crazies that are feeding it to them. This is Black Friday. Have you ever seen this? Black Friday in America is the first day of Christmas shopping. What they do to get it going is they put all these little lost leaders with things were, you know, very, very cheap, and they open the stores about 4 a.m. in the morning, and there are thousands of people all lining up in the dead of night to get this bargain. Oh, I must have that lemon squeezer, 80 cents out of my way or I shoot. And it's a situation we had again in America, where they had riots at a Nike training shoe launch because there wasn't enough to go round. And a few people can't control the world. It's a piece of cake. Not only in America, look at it in Britain. iPhone 5, Q hysteria in London. Work, buy, consume, die. Work, buy, consume, die. That's the program they want us to believe in. And so, while all these diversions, in and of themselves, a little bit of pleasure, as long as you keep the peripheral vision, it's all right. But when they take your entire focus, these are hiding the peripheral vision where the real deal goes on. And they make people like flies or moths round a light on a porch. They're so mesmerized by the diversion, they don't see the guy creeping up behind them with a swatter to smack them on the arse. That's where humanity is. Oh, come on, X Factor's on. Oh, that's good. Oh, there you go. Price is Right's on. Oh, there you go. And it's gone on, generation after generation. So there is a connection here, a connection across the generations of the human family in all its glorious expressions that has been keeping us in a hypnotic trance, believing total bollocks, believing it to be real, and to believing that slavery is freedom. Slavery, it works better when you don't tell them. I'm not a slave. What time you got to get up in the morning? Well, I have to get up at 7:30. And then what are you going to do? Well, they have to go to work. And on it goes. And even with all this evidence, large numbers of people still look at the world and say, it looks all right to me. It looks fine to me. John Lennon said, when I was 5 years old, my mother always told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wrote down, happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment. And I told them they didn't understand life. And then there was that famous quote, that great quote, when Lennon was talking about the world, funnily enough, being run by insane people.
I think our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. You know, and I think that's what I sussed when I was 16 and 12, way down the line. But I expressed it differently all through my life. It's the same thing I'm expressing all the time, but now I can put it into that sentence that I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal ends, you know. If anybody can put on paper what our government and the American government, etc., and the Russian, Chinese, what they are actually trying to do, you know, and what they think they're doing, I'd be very pleased to know what they think they're doing. I think they're all insane, you know, but I'm liable to be put away as insane for expressing that. You know, that's what's insane about it.
Yes. And then there's the one word with a question mark that has been my guiding light this last nearly quarter of a century. Why? Not only is the world crazy, not is it run by crazy people, why? Why? To what end? And to understand that, it takes one heck of a lot of work. Because this is not about one subject. As you'll see today, it's why it's going on all day and into the night. It's not about one subject. It's about connecting dots, putting puzzle pieces together that on the face of it have no connection. But put them together and whoa, the picture becomes clear. What the system wants is for us to focus entirely, if they can get away with it, on a dot. This might be your football team, your career, your family. Nothing wrong with them in keeping with lots of other things, but I'm talking about focus. Focus on whatever takes your focus. Endless things do for endless different people. Because when you're focusing on something, you're not seeing the peripheral vision. It's all right focusing on something, but being aware how it connects into the greater picture. But if you're only there, you're a manipulator's party trick, because the manipulation's going on in the peripheral vision you're not seeing. And you can look at dots, society's dots, this banking scam, this a political scam. They're putting this shite in our food and the water. What about them chemtrail things in the sky? What's going on? They're all dots. But you connect them and bingo, the picture becomes clear. It's an elephant in the bloody living room. And that elephant in the living room is that there is a multi-level conspiracy, a multi-dimensional conspiracy to enslave humanity in a fake reality based on focusing people almost entirely in the five sense of reality. And on one level, yes, and I'm going to go into this big time in section 3 today. On one level, yes, it's about the manipulation of the conscious mind world that we see. It's about the police state emerging. It's about vaccinating children, destroying their immune system. It's about the microchip agenda, and all this stuff goes on. But you go deeper, and you find that behind the world we see is a world that we don't see, which is fundamentally manipulating the world that we do. And things like Saturn and the moon are very, very much involved. We're going to get into that big time in section 2 today. And the biggest glue, the biggest cement that brings the dots together is the fact that our reality, the one we think we're experiencing, is nothing like the way we experience it. This is the big one, because if you are researching the conspiracy and you don't see how it connects into the illusory nature of reality, you're never even going to enter the rabbit hole, never mind get deep into it. You're just going to walk around the edge. The common theme of all of it is the control of perception. That's the conspiracy. Everything else is detail. If you can control someone's perception, you control their behavior, you control their actions or inactions, thus you control them. You do that to vast numbers of people, you control the people collectively. And all the time, look at them. There are all these sources of people and institutions that are telling us what to believe, what we are, what's right, what's wrong, what's moral, what's immoral, what's mad and what's sane, and all this bloody stuff. And while all this is going on, the real knowledge, which I'm going to be talking about at length today, that what they really don't want us to know, is held in the upper levels of these compartmentalized secret society pyramids, and the people are kept in ignorance of that knowledge. Thus we are being manipulated by knowledge that we don't even know exists. And this is what they want us to believe. I have no power. That is the perception of perceptions in the desire of the control system. Because if we think we have no power, we express no power, and thus we have no power, even though we are all powerful, all knowing, all that is, has been, and ever can be. So we stand here now. I've been saying this for years, but my goodness me, it's becoming more and more blatant. We are standing here now at this fork in the road, and we don't have any longer to make a decision. We can go on as we are, and we'll end up in a global fascist state within 10 to 15 years. Maybe I'm being optimistic, because the more you centralize power and control, the more power you have centrally to control and increase power centrally. So it gets faster and faster and faster. The more power you have, the more power you have to centralize even more. And so that's the question. And basically, this is what today is. The Shit Creek paddle stores. Because, you know, there's going to be some challenging information in section 2 and 3. And I hear some people who kind of New Age type people, and they say about people like me, they say, he's negative, shut him up, he's negative. And I think, well, okay, is truth negative or is ignorance negative? Well, oh, truth's positive. Well, so if what I'm putting across has validity, it cannot be negative. Things that are happening and we need to know are happening are not negative, no matter how unpleasant they are. Ignorance of them is negative, because that's how we got into this position. So, you know, if it's negative, can't take it, well, they should, I don't know, go and do something in a lotus position or whatever. Do what you like, but forget about this, because this is going to be challenging, much of it. But it is the key to doing something about it once we know it's going on and how it works. So, Shit Creek. But things are changing. Things are changing. Things are changing. People are starting to wake up and see it on a scale never before. We've seen the Occupy protests, and that's great. People are identifying this 1%. Actually, it's probably 0.1% if you get the real deal. And they're seeing this disparity. But as it goes on around the world, what those people have got to understand, I would suggest, if we're going to deal with this, is just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Because if you're only challenging something here, and you're not getting to where it's actually coming from, you're not going to change it. You're just going to get more and more frustrated. And if we're going to find out how deep that rabbit hole goes and where it's coming from, and thus where we can change it, then we've got to ask big answers or big questions, and therefore get big answers. We don't tend to do this. We tend to ask when the football's on, we also tend to ask this and that, and, you know, what time the game show's on, but we don't ask the big questions. Big questions. Who are we? Who are we? What is a human or beyond human? Where are we? What is this reality? What is it? Why is the world as it is? Why is the world run by maniacs for maniacal reasons? These are the big questions, and you start to get big answers. The establishment institutions of science, education, media are not going to tell you, because the crazies control them. And when you open your mind and you open your heart and you go where that takes you, you realize that this physical world is an illusion. As the great American comedian Bill Hicks said, all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration. We're all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There's no such thing as death. Life is only a dream, and we are the imagination of ourselves. And what a great quote that is. And if I could put the conspiracy in one sentence, it would be the manipulation of the imagination of ourselves, which is what? The manipulation of our perception. And when you realize the illusory nature of the world, you also realize how easy it is to manipulate people to manifest the world that which is manipulated, the perception, wants you to create. I mean, these are just a few kind of tricks that trick the brain into seeing what's not there. I love that line, optical illusions. They're great for throwing off drunk people. And these are all on a flat pavement. There's no three-dimensional nature to them, but the brain is tricked into seeing what isn't there. Same with that. That clearly is not there, but the brain is picking it up that it is. These lines are actually straight, but the brain can't decode it that way, so we don't see them as straight. Some people will see that as a glass, some people will see it as two faces looking at each other. That is on a flat surface. It's not three-dimensional at all, it's just been painted on it in a certain way. So is that. The lady there is also painted on. And it just tricks the mind. So does that. It's so easy. And these are simple, simple examples. Now imagine if you in the deep shadows know how reality works and how we're decoding it, you have the knowledge to manipulate what we decode, believing it's real, much deeper than just these simple illusions. Einstein said, reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one. And after 25 years nearly of researching this in nearly 50 countries and all the rest of it, and I've been saying this for years now, as many people will know, I say that that illusion is persistent because we are living in a virtual reality universe. And it was only this very week that I picked up a paper, and after I've been saying this for years and years and years and years, and found that these physicists say they may have evidence that the universe is a computer simulation. Hallelujah. Keep going, guys, because it bloody well is. And it explains so much about the world that we are experiencing, as I'm going to get to in detail. Now, when you look at, video games and stuff like that, and computer simulation games today, they're getting closer and closer to the reality we're actually experiencing. This is the guy's real face. This is his virtual face. And more, we're having training films and video games that are getting closer and closer to the reality that we're experiencing. Here's this guy. They train bloody parachutists. Hello, sir. I'm just landing in the desert. And it seems so in the best of them, as it seems so when people do it in this one. And people are learning to fly overwhelmingly through their training on simulation technology. Some hospitals are using virtual reality technology to change dressings in burns units because the virtual reality affects the experience, i.e. the experienced reality of the patient, to the point where they don't feel the pain anything like as much. And in these more sophisticated computer virtual reality games, then what are they doing? They're hacking into the five senses. That's what they're doing. Hacking into sight, hacking into touch. And even though they're just technology and information being fed to the mind, they can be incredibly bloody real. This one is incredibly bloody real. And what are they doing? They are hacking in to the five senses, hacking into a system through which we create this reality. The body is what I call a biological computer. And the senses pick up vibrational information, they turn it into electrical information fed to the brain, and the brain then constructs reality based on that information. And all that virtual reality games are doing is hacking into it and feeding different information for the brain to decode into an experienced reality. Now, what if that was happening here in terms of this, which I'll get to in section 2? The reason they can connect the brain to computers and have interaction is because they're connecting two computers, one fantastically more sophisticated than the other, but the principle is the same. The five senses are just a decoding system, taking, like I say, vibrational information. The ear is the classic example, of course, but they're all like this. It takes vibrational information, it transfers it as electrical information to the brain, and the brain then decodes the sound. As I'm speaking now, passing between me and everyone else is not words, it's a vibrational information field. coming from the vocal cords. The ear picks it up, decodes it into electrical signals to the brain. The brain then hears what you're saying. We only hear people when we've decoded what they hear, what we're hearing. And that's why you can hear somebody and hear completely different words and meanings and expressions to what were given, because your decoding system has intervened in that process, maybe because you don't like the person or whatever. The tongue is the same. You take electrical information, you turn it into electrical information to the brain, and then you taste. Oh, that's nice, when this decides that. Same with smell, the same system. Same with touch. You know, some pain relief situations now in hospitals, they stop the message going from the point of the pain to the brain, and if the brain doesn't get that message, it doesn't feel pain. So, I've said many times that this is the stadium on which the human race is controlled. Because if you can control the way this decodes reality from the information it's receiving, then you control that person's perception of self and reality. That's the foundation of it all. Everything else, like I say, is detail. So, in this scene from The Matrix, when Neo said, "This isn't real," and Morpheus said, "What is real?" How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, taste, and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. Exactly. And what if there were people that understood that and understood how to manipulate the way people's brains interpret that information, what power they would have? That is what is happening. So we have these virtual reality lives we think are real. You know, oh yeah, I've got a nice car, mate. Yeah, I've got a big house. I'm quite good in banking. Oh, me, I'll make it up as I go along, my life. Yeah, oh, me, my life's falling apart. I'm only just holding it together, mate. You know, we're holding all these bloody virtual lives. When what we are is infinite consciousness, having that experience. Even movement is an illusion. There are some people who have malfunctions of the brain that don't see like tea coming out of the pot into a cup like a flow. They see a freeze frame. And there's the same basic malfunction as people seeing a car in the distance, and the next time they see it, it's just gone past them. They've seen nothing in between. Why? Not because there wasn't something in between to decode, but their brain didn't decode it. This is from the mainstream media. Researchers have been able to translate brain signals into speech using sensors attached to the surface of the brain for the first time. The breakthrough, which is up to 90% accurate, offers a way to communicate for paralyzed patients who cannot speak and could eventually lead to being able to read anyone's thoughts. That's what the brain's doing anyway. It's reading information signals and turning them into a reality. The brain is pitch black. There's no light in the brain. How can I see a light? Because that is information. And I'm decoding that information into light. Thus, again in the Matrix, this was so true. When the child said, "There is no spoon. It's not the spoon that bends. It is only yourself." In the way you decode reality. You have people, I've seen them, you walk through fire, somebody calls a bloody ambulance. But you go through fire in a different state of consciousness. What are you doing? You are decoding reality in a different way because of the different state of consciousness, and you can walk through fire and not get burned. Why? Because an illusion can only burn an illusion if you believe it can, and thus create that reality. So the body is merely a vehicle which is operating within the frequency range of this reality, and thus allows the true self to focus attention through the vehicle into this reality and experience what this reality has to offer. It is not who we are. That's the big mistake. The body is like a lens. It's like a telescope which allows the truth self, infinite awareness, to experience this reality. When we get caught into that is who we are, and that's what the conspiracy is working 24/7 all our lives to kid us to believe, then we become limited. I have no power. When we realize we are that, just having that experience, we are all powerful. We are consciousness. We are awareness. We are a point of attention within the great infinite forever. This is just the vehicle of experience. As a Central American shaman brilliantly put it, we are perceivers. We are awareness. We are not objects. We have no solidity. We are boundless. We, or rather our reason, forget this, and thus we entrap the totality of ourselves in a vicious circle from which we rarely emerge in our lifetime. The goal of the conspiracy is to stop us emerging from it. And this is a picture, an image by a great friend of mine, artist Neil Haig, a unique artist, and anything of this style through the day is his, and there's plenty of them. And basically the symbolism here is this is who we are as human beings, like just the white crests of the wave that seem to have some form of individuality, but actually they're just an expression of the ocean. And that's what the conspiracy wants us to forget, that we are the ocean. They want us to think we're just the droplet, the little me, the powerless little me. And I found this wonderful, wonderful picture. This is humanity. It is just a point of attention within infinite reality. And we can have a point of attention that is, I am Ethel Jones and I work at the store. Or we can have a point of attention that I am infinite consciousness, all that is, has been, and ever can be, having an experience as Ethel at the store. The difference in the way we live our lives from those 2 points of attention is absolutely fantastic. So we talk about subconscious. What is subconscious? It's just that which the conscious mind, tiny, is not consciously aware. In other words, it's everything that isn't the conscious mind. It goes on into infinity. Now this is an important point because it's going to play out through a lot of this. The foundation of this universe is not this. This is just a projection, a decoded version of it. The foundation of the universe is vibrational waveform information fields, which we decode through the electrical into what is the holographic. I'll get to that. In other words, this world is a reflection of that. This is where it all comes from. We're going deeper in the rabbit hole now. Even colors are frequencies, waveform frequencies. It's all they are. Everything in this reality is a waveform frequency. And so this is what I call the metaphysical universe. This is the waveform construct in all its forms, and we're decoding it through into what appears to be a solid world. It's actually illusory solid, holographic. And not only are we decoding this, we are also posting information onto this by our thoughts, responses, and actions. It's a two-way thing. It's like the cosmic internet, as I'll get to. So when Plato, ancient Greek philosopher, and Socrates and all that stuff around that time, Aristotle, Plato talked about the illusion of the world being shadows on the walls of a cave, which people took to be real, when it was just a projection of something else. All that time ago, spot on. And therefore, this waveform information becomes this only when it comes through this. Not just the brain either, the whole genetic structure is part of the decoding system. So this does not exist out there. There is no out there. There is only in here. And in here, which I'll really get to. And it's the same with the internet. There's no internet out there to a computer. It's within the computer's decoding process that it exists. And thus, the crazies want to, and have up to this point, not least because humanity has not understood what's going on because it's not told, they have sought to intervene into this process to dictate what emerges and manifests as our experienced sense of reality. In other words, humanity is under mass hypnosis. But you know, isn't it funny? We use these phrases and we use these words and we throw them away, they have such profound meaning. People say, I woke up and I could suddenly see it. Yes, woke up from the hypnotic trance. That's exactly what it is. And these are the hypnotists. And most of them, vast majority, are also hypnotized in a trance, hypnotized to hypnotize other people into the trance. They're called journalists and whatever Bill O'Reilly is. I don't know who he is or what he is anyway, on Fox News in America. And, you know, all these politicians, doctors, and all these people, teachers and schools and academics, they are hypnotizing people with a version of reality, most of them unknowingly. And this is where all this comes from. All these sources of, you must believe this is credible, this is not credible, are all hypnotic implants into the mind. And we live in what I call the wireless cosmos. And this is why we literally don't see it. Nowadays, of course, you've got the wireless internet. The Wembley Arena's probably, I'm sure, got the wireless internet. Okay, where the bloody hell is it? It's here. I could get this computer here, and I could log it in, and in the middle of this stage, with no wires attached to it, I could log into a worldwide reality, a collective reality that can be picked up in South Africa, America, Britain, in Russia, everywhere that it's available. And that's what we are doing through the body computer. We are picking up information from the cosmic internet, as I call it, and we are decoding it into a experienced reality. And what we decode from it and what we don't decode from it is dictated by the way our decoding system works, and that is immensely dictated by our sense of perception. So what is the internet? Well, people say, well, it's graphics and it's words and it's pictures on a screen. Well, yes, it is, but only on the screen. Everywhere else, it's electrical circuits and all this stuff. Okay, what's TV? Well, it's moving pictures on a screen. Yes, it is, but only on the screen. Everywhere else, it's electronic circuits, it's digital stuff these days, or it's the old frequency, analog stuff that's still around. That's what most of it is. Only on the screen is it that. Well, only on our screen is this. Any other time, it's a vast information construct. And because we're all decoding the basic same construct, that's why we see the same lights. That's why we see the same blue car passing. But what we think of that car, whether we like it or don't like it, or all the rest of it, is our unique spin on that collective virtual reality game that we're experiencing. Now, I make the strong difference between what I call body-mind. This is so important to the conspiracy as we go through the day. What I call body-mind and what I call consciousness. Body-mind to me is the body and the lower auric field mind that operates in this reality, basically. And this consciousness is the greater self operating beyond this reality, with therefore a very different view of this world from its perspective of attention. And of course, if you were on the internet and your consciousness, symbolically the guy with the keyboard and the mouse, had control of the computer, well, that's great, because you're deciding what websites you go to, you're deciding whether you like them or whether you don't like them, you're making all the decisions. But what if this became detached from that, and that went away on its own, making its own decisions, deciding where it's going to go and what it thinks of it? Suddenly this is banging the keyboard and tapping the mouse, nothing happening. And that's what the conspiracy is about. It's isolating body-mind, that which is having the experience, from the greater self. That's why we live in a society that's entirely about attracting and controlling and hijacking the attention of the five senses. And, of course, everything is one. We'll get into this. Everything is one. But that one has multiple infinite possibilities and expressions. Thus, mind and consciousness are of the same substance, but they're not in the same state of perception and awareness. Consciousness can be symbolized as the ocean, and mind, still the same as the ocean, in water in this symbolic case, but it's much denser, much more limited in its ability to perceive. And this is where humanity is, when this is what humanity really is. This guy, Ramana Maharshi, he left home. I don't recommend it, but if you fancy it, he left home at 14. He went to a mountain called Arunachala in India, and he meditated for much of the rest of his life. And in those deep states of meditation, he came to this conclusion: mind is consciousness which has put on limitations. You are originally unlimited and perfect. Later you take on limitations and become the mind. The conspiracy must have us become the mind. Otherwise we're uncontrollable. Einstein: a human being is part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feeling, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. Consciousness sees everything as one. Mind sees everything as apart from everything else. Where do you want people to be in terms of their point of attention if you want people in constant conflict, warfare, and divide and rule? Certainly not that. So, as I said, it's a great image by Neil Haig from... I asked him to do it because I've had this picture in my mind for years of symbolically our situation in experiencing this reality. This is the true self, and this is the five-sense self that is basically looking into this reality and decoding it. And our focus of attention can be purely here, in which case we'll read the Sun or the National Enquirer and believe the dates, and, oh no, it's real, mate, it's all real. Or we can have our point of attention going deep into the greater self, in which case we will see this in a totally different way. So, what is the universe? It is information. And that's the construct from which it comes. And information is in everything, because everything is information. This is a man called Dr. Emoto. I spent a whole weekend with him once in London and had a long, long chat with him about his work. And he became well known in his field because what he does is he takes little canisters of water, for instance, and he'll write words on them and stick them to the side of the canister. Or he'll put a mobile phone on them, maybe. And then he freezes them. I've been to his studio laboratory in Tokyo and seen how it does, where he does it. And he freezes it very, very quickly. And then he photographs the water crystals from the water before they melt. This is a water crystal that had love and appreciation written on the side. This is a water crystal that had "you make me sick, I want to kill you" written on the side. You want to see what they look like when a mobile phone's been on the side. Now, what is happening here? Like I say, the base construct of everything in this universe is waveform information, which is decoded through to the electrical and the digital too, into the holographic. So what's happening is what we're seeing in this reality, this holographic reality, is someone writing words and putting them on the side of a canister of water. But if you go back here to the foundation of everything, those words in their foundation state, written or spoken, are in vibrational information. Now, the words of love and appreciation are a harmonious vibrational information state. So when they impact upon the vibrational state of the water, it's geometrically beautiful because it's harmonious. You get words like, you make me sick, I want to kill you, and you take them back from the written state into their foundation state, vibrational information, and it's a very distorted information state because of the intent behind them. And therefore, when it plays through, it distorts the harmony of the water, which you can see in the crystals. And everything is information. There's an organization in Germany called the Aerospace Institute in Stuttgart. And if you put into YouTube the words "water has a memory," you'll see a little video about this. What they've found there is the ability to photograph information in water droplets. And for instance, what they have done is they had this big canister of water and they put a flower in it. And then they took the flower out. And then they photographed the individual droplets, or some of them. Every single droplet had that entire flower within them. And it had only been in there a little while. Every single droplet. That information, the flower, had been transferred to the information of the water. They then got a group of people from the local community to come along, another big canister of water, and they were asked to take 4 droplets each and put them in a little dish with their name on. And when they photographed the information in those droplets, they found what was amazing, but not really, because it's just perfectly explainable the way reality is. Every single one of the 4 droplets that each individual put into the dish of their own was the same virtually, but every 4 grouping was different. In other words, in the process of taking that droplet of water and putting it in the dish, that water had picked up the unique information state of the person doing it. That is the wonder, the amazing, breathtaking wonder of the world that we live in, that is kept from us. Now, that puts this in a different state. You ever come across that guy, Professor Richard Dawkins? He don't like alternative healing, and he don't like alternative versions of science and all that stuff. He don't like religion much either. And so what he would say about homeopathy, rubbish, absolute rubbish. How can you dilute a substance and dilute a substance so there's no substance left? How can it have any to do with the healing? Ridiculous, mad. Okay, Dogma Dawkins, I call him. Dogma, let me explain something to you, mate. Yes, the substance is diluted and diluted until there's no substance. But the information remains, just like the information from the flower remained in the water after it was taken out. And it is the information that does the healing, because we are in an information universe. Distorted information, ill health. Harmonious information, good health. And thus, when we see fluoride in the water, and we see great oil spills in the Gulf of Mexico, we are seeing holographically what we see on the news. But take it back to its foundation, vibrational waveform construct, and you're looking at these substances massively distorting the information harmony of whatever they have polluted. The information construct of the planet is being distorted systematically for the reasons that I'll come to as the day unfolds. And therefore, when you are talking about everything being information, being awareness, then when you look at the holographic level, it might be a mountain, it might be a tree, a forest, or whatever, you're looking at something that is conscious. It's a rock. No, it's not just a rock. It's a rock here as we experience it, but go back to its vibrational waveform foundation, and it is an awareness. And thus you can communicate between awareness at that energetic level. He talks to rocks. I don't talk to rocks. I talk to the consciousness that holographically is expressed as a rock. Oh, I do talk to rocks. I'm having a chat with you, mate. But anyway. What is the universe? It's information, yes, but it's information decoding information. When you put a disk into a computer, the disk is information, and it's decoded by another form of information called the computer. And therefore, the human body is information, and it decodes other information, and vice versa. As Edgar Allan Poe said, all that we see or seem is just a dream within a dream. When we have a dream at night and you know, we wake up, oh no, it's just a dream. Oh, but it was so real. Well, this is a dream. It's just more real in the way we experience it. And the human body too, like everything, is not physical. It's a holographic, illusory physical form, which in its base state, here we go again, is waveform information. This has massive implications for healing, true healing. Because what the medical profession does, and the big pharma, it wants to heal this. Well, it doesn't. Some of them do. The big pharma doesn't. He wants the bucks. But it wants to treat this. But this is just a projection. That's why it only treats symptoms, not causes, because the causes are here in information distortion. If you harmonize the distortion, that must heal, because that's just a projection of that. Bloody so simple. And this story kind of encapsulates just the illusory nature of everything. There was a guy called Michael Tolbert. He wrote a great book back in the 90s called The Holographic Universe. He looked at the scientific evidence for the fact that this is a holographic, illusory physical world, which it is. And he told the story in that book of a party that his father held, and he experienced, he was there, at his home, and the father got a stage hypnotist along to do party tricks. And he got this guy, his name was Tom, sat him down, and he said to him, after he'd done his, you know, you're eating an apple and it's really potato stuff. And what's that? What's that? What is the hypnotist doing? He is telling the decoding process, it's a potato. You're eating an apple. So when the vibrational information from the apple becomes electrical information to the brain, instead of the brain decoding the apple, because it's been encoded to believe it's an apple, potato, that's what it decodes. And you try telling somebody eating an apple that's a potato that it isn't an apple. Look, mate, I can taste an apple. And they say this about everything. Oh, look, mate, I can see it. Oh, look, I know it's real, but it's just the way we're decoding it. And in this example, as he was starting to bring Tom out of his hypnotic state, he said to him, when I bring you back to waking state, Tom, you're not going to be able to see your daughter in the room. And what he did then was led the daughter to stand in front of the father. So he's looking in her belly. And he brings him out of a trance state, apparently, and he said to him, can you see your daughter, Tom, in the room? And Tom's looking around, he said, can't see anything. No, she's not here. She's here! And she's laughing. But he's saying she's not in the room. Everyone else is in the room that can see her, but he can't for reasons I'll come to. And then the hypnotist went behind the daughter, with put his hand in the small of her back, and he said, I'm holding something, Tom. What am I holding? So he looks, and it's so obvious to him, it's a watch. He says, there's an inscription on it, Tom. What is it? He peered forward, he read the inscription. His daughter's between him and the watch. Dogma Dawkins, rubbish! Not possible, not possible! Well, let's have a look, Dogma. Let's have a look here. What's gone on? The foundation of the daughter, like the foundation of this entire universe, is waveform information. And if the father does not decode the waveform level of the daughter into holographic reality, She does not exist in the reality of his conscious mind, because he's not decoded her into that level of reality. Everyone else in the room can see her because they've not had the hypnotic blocking mechanism put in there saying, you're not going to be able to see your daughter, Tom. And only when he decodes her into holographic reality can she appear in his reality. And if she's not been decoded into his reality, he can see what's behind her, because at that level of reality, she's not there. She's at another level of frequency. Now imagine again, if you were at the core of this conspiracy, and you knew that. And you controlled the media, and you controlled the television, and you controlled the education system, and you controlled all the sources of information that people receive in the mainstream. You could make them perceive and decode almost anything you wanted. So the world is not outside of us. It just appears like that. I grant you it does. But it's not. It's illusory. It's within us. Within us, that's where we are decoding reality. And this is the key. This is the gateway. This is the gateway. The doorway out of the prison. I'm going to go into this very, very deeply as we go through the day. The power of the heart. We think of intellect, the brain, that's a very low level of awareness. This is the real level of awareness that connects us beyond the world of the illusion into the greater ocean of awareness. The greater love, intuition. This is where intuition comes from. We don't say, oh, I just intuitively feel, do we? We go, I just intuitively feel. We're doing the body language and we're indicating where this is coming from. And it is innate intelligence. It's not, I've been to university and I've remembered all these things, what dogma told me, and I passed my exams. That's not intelligence, that is memory, overwhelmingly. This is true innate intelligence, knowing, not thinking. And I'm not just talking about the heart that pumps the blood. I'm talking about this heart vortex, which is the spiritual heart, which opens us through into the greater ocean if we open it. If we don't, it shuts us off from the greater ocean. There's an organization in America called the Institute of Heart Math, which does a lot of research. Its whole kind of focus is on the power of the heart. And it points out that the most powerful electromagnetic field in the body is the heart. There are more nerves going from the heart to the brain than coming the other way. And they found something else in their research, that if the heart and the brain and the central nervous system are in coherence, electromagnetic harmony coherence, the person goes into a completely different and much, much higher level of consciousness and awareness. If that coherence is broken with incoherent resonance, then you come out of that high state of consciousness into a lower state of consciousness. I've just described one of the greatest mechanisms and goals of this global conspiracy, because this is the heart resonance, coherence, when people are in a state of appreciation, of love. This is their incoherence when we're in a state of frustration, of fear, of anger, of resentment. And look at the society that we have had structured for us by the crazes that run it. It is a factory, a global factory of all the emotional states that knock us into heart incoherence and thus hold us down in a lower level of consciousness. That's why it's done. The Institute of Heart Math said this: there is also new data suggesting that the heart's field is directly involved in intuitive perception beyond mind through its coupling to an energetic information outside the bounds of space and time. Yes, outside the walls of the illusion. Thus, they want heart-closed people so that we do not breach the walls of the illusion and stay within it. That is why they have structured society as they have, and in section 2 I'll explain all that in detail. So, the idea is to hold us here and keep us detached of an awareness and an influence from that. Now, one of the great things about doing what I do is when you come across other people's research in various disciplines and various specific areas, and it fits into what you're doing perfectly. And this is an example. Cosmic communication. There is now a whole area, and a fast emerging area, of research of the universe, which is basically given the heading of the electrical universe. Two of the great pioneers of it are Wallace Thornhill and David Talbot. And David Talbot will come up in relation to something else later on. And this is a great book. I don't think it's very easy to get. I didn't find it easy anyway, but it's a really great book. And it is explaining the electromagnetic nature of this universe with brilliant supporting evidence. Now, we are aware of the electricity in the atmosphere when we see lightning. What most people don't realize is when lightning has happened in the lower atmosphere, it actually continues up under different names like elves, sprites, tendrils, right out into beyond the Earth's field into the cosmos. And it's funny, mainstream science seems to think there are no electrical phenomena, but they say there are electromagnetic phenomena out there, and you can't have electromagnetism without electricity. Even someone who never took an exam in his life and left Crown Hill Secondary Modern in Leicester in 1966, something like that, at the age of 15, I can see that don't make sense. Things like tornadoes are fast-rotating electrical fields. That's why they appear so often when there are electrical storms in the atmosphere. The northern lights are electrical phenomena. The galaxy is moved by electrical forces, and as it moves, it itself is like a disk motor, creating other electrical forces. And this is what they say in the book, Electric Universe. The electrical force is about 1,000 trillion times more powerful than gravity. And it's clear when you look at it that it's not gravity that holds things together and holds planets in their orbits. It's electromagnetic forces, which will become very significant in stage 2, part 2 today, because if the planets of bodies are held in their orbits and held in some form of stability by electromagnetic forces, then anything that distorts those forces is going to cause those bodies to go walkabout, which has happened in this solar system in relatively recent times, which I'll get to that later. Now, this is mainstream science. 99.9%, 99 in fact, of the universe, the visible universe, is plasma. And plasma just happens to be the virtually perfect medium for electricity to pass through. One of the researchers into the electrical nature of the universe said, in the laboratory, plasma exhibits a lifelike ability to self-organize and to cope with the stresses of its electrical environment. Why can it lifelike self-organize? Because, like everything else, it is an expression of consciousness. It is an awareness. The thing about the electrical universe advocates is that they can replicate phenomena in space, in the universe, in the laboratory through things like the plasma focus device and things. Mainstream science can overwhelmingly not replicate their version of what's happening out there or why it's happening. Comets are electrically affected forces as they pass through an electrical universe, creating electrical phenomena. The sun is virtually entirely plasma. Why? Because it is a filterer and a processor of electricity. in the universe. And things like solar flares are just massively greater examples of things like lightning. Now, the official mainstream version of the sun is that it has some nuclear core which passes heat out through a radiative zone and a convective zone and punches holes in, like they call sunspots, in the surface, and thus the more sunspots there are, the more the solar activity at the time. Well, there's a few things to that. First of all, there's no evidence of a radiative zone, and the convective zone is 1% of what it would need to be for that to be true. And also, if it's coming from the core and going outwards, why is the surface incredibly cooler than right out in the sun's atmosphere? Why? Because it's coming the other way. If you look at the sun in an ultraviolet level, there is this torus or donut around the sun. And it is gathering, bringing in electricity from the universal electrical field. Because the universe operates electrically like we do, it operates vibrationally, it operates digitally, and it operates holographically, just as we do. And so, when it has taken in a very, very powerful amounts of electricity, it discharges them because it can't hold them anymore, just like lightning discharges in a very electrically powerful atmosphere. And it punches holes in the sun that we call sunspots. And therefore, the more electricity is being picked up by that torus, the more it is discharging, the more sunspots, the more solar activity can be measured by sunspots. And this is one of the cycles, and I'll just take you through this cycle. Global warming, yeah. Global warming, global warming, global warming, yeah. Global warming, yeah. Global warming, global warming. Climate change, climate change, climate change. And there is another phenomena of the electrical plasma universe, and that is something called Langmuir sheaths, after a man called Irving Langmuir, who basically came up with the concept. And that is this. It's incredible, really, to explain this phenomena. When plasma of a certain electrical charge meets plasma of another electrical charge, they automatically create these sheaths which hold the different charges apart. And thus, a planet or a sun is an electrical phenomenon on one level, and therefore the plasma around it carries a unique electrical charge coming off that planetary body. Thus, we have the planetary energy fields, or magnetospheres, which are created by electrical phenomena which impregnates the plasma with a certain charge that's different to another charge, and thus we have magnetospheres. And we have magnetospheres in a way called the auric field. And we, as human beings, are interacting on this electrical level, as we are on the digital, holographic, and vibrational level, with this cosmic internet. The electric universe that these people are brilliantly coming up with is one level of the cosmic internet, the interaction of information. And now we can start to see, I'll get into this later, how technology like HAARP in Alaska, which bounces radio waves of great power off the ionosphere, etc., can hack into this electrical system and change the weather and create things like earthquakes. That's what it's doing. It's hacking into these systems. And of course, the brain is working on an electrical level. That's mainstream science. But the body, the genetic structure itself, on one level is massively electrical. And on that level, we're interacting all the time with the electrical universe, picking up information from it and posting information on it with our thoughts and emotions. Another thing with the plasma electrical universe is as electricity is passing through plasma, these are called Birkeland currents, the phenomenon automatically makes these electrical forces twirl around each other, and as they create electromagnetic fields which hold the electrical forces in place. It's bloody genius. Probably somebody did that, that's why, but this is the way it is. This is the double helix nebula, a very massive version of that. But these Birkeland currents are tiny, 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 going up to enormous, beyond our imagination in size, on the electrical level of the universe. And like I say, there you go, and there you go. DNA. DNA is another expression, as above, so below, of this phenomena that I'm talking about here. That's why it looks as it does. That's why the electrical level of the universe and brain cell activity, because we are interacting with it. We are different. We are a smaller version of the whole for reasons I'll come to. And of course, the heart electromagnetic electrical field is also interacting with the greater universe. And we are doing that through the energy lines of acupuncture, with the chi energy. That's doing the same. I'll talk about that in a second. By the way, this photograph was taken the moment someone told him that Barack Obama had won the Nobel Peace Prize. That was when it was taken. But and of course, the Earth is also interacting with the greater field. This is what ley lines, meridian lines, the lines of force are, that interpenetrate and go all around the planet, and where lots of them cross, massive vortexes appear. And it was at those places that the ancients used to put their great standing stone circles, because these were places of communication, transmission and receiving information. That's why they used crystalline rock, for that reason. And if you look at the animal world, they haven't been to school. They don't watch the BBC and all that stuff and Fox News. Therefore, they've not been desensitized from these greater connections as we have. This is what happening. We've been desensitized from them, so we lose an influence of them when we go into our little five-sense world. This is why animals can sense things like earthquakes and weather and all these other things that humans in their present state can't, but should in their natural state. It's because they've not been desensitized from it. So, in terms of reality and the conspiracy that I'm going to expose on a massive scale today, we've been living a false identity. That's how they do it. They take infinite awareness, all that is, has been, and ever can be, and they turn it into Charlie Smith, who drives a bus, who identifies himself with Charlie Smith driving the bus. That's how they do it. They give us a false identity. It's a gigantic hoax. Hello, mate, how are you doing? Oh, it's all right. Kids are doing well. All right, what's been going on? Oh, they've gone to university. Oh, really? They're good programming then? Yeah, I thought that was good. Yeah, that'd be all right. What about you, mate? Oh, my life's in a terrible mess. I don't know what I'm going to do. All that's going on. All that's going on. While him and anybody like them is infinite awareness. All that has been, is, and ever can be. That is the scale of the twisting, distorting of our sense of identity that this conspiracy has visited upon the human family. And this image indicates two things. First of all, the universe that we see, the created universe, the world of vibration and electricity and all that stuff. And then there's that, the real center of everything. Anyone that goes into deep meditative states, and I've been here using ayahuasca on occasion in 2003 in Brazil. Wonderful place that is. And what you do is you go beyond the senses, you go beyond the illusion, and you go into this place that mystics and people have talked about for as long as humanity has recorded itself. You go into a place of stillness and silence. And people think, again, everything is distorted, everything is upside down. People think of stillness and silence as nothingness, when what it is all possibility waiting to manifest. All that is, has been, and ever can be. What does that phrase really mean? It means all possibility waiting to manifest. That's where the heart takes you. When you go beyond the illusion, that's the true self. What we're experiencing now that we think is all of us is merely one tiny, tiny infinitesimal experience within all possibility. All possibility, that's what that is. All possibility, all potential is there, waiting to manifest. All there is and ever can be, all possibility. It's everywhere and nowhere. You can't have everywhere and nowhere, you've got to have one or the other. In all possibility, all there is, has been, and ever can be, you must be everywhere and nowhere, or you're not in a state of all possibility. Everything and nothing. You can't have everything and nothing. You've got to have one or the other. You must have everything and nothing in a state of all possibility. The no thing. People think, no thing. What can you hear? No thing. So there's nothing there because of the way we're manipulated to perceive reality. If we can't see it, touch it, taste it, hear it, it cannot exist. Well, they're just illusory creations. Okay. The silence is not nothing. It is nothing because it's all possibility, so it's nothing, but it's also everything. So here's all possibility in the silence and the stillness. And then I start to speak, and I've pulled one possibility, vibrational possibility, out of all possibility, and then I stop speaking and it goes back into all possibility to manifest in another way, in some other form. So we've lost and had twisted the state that is the core of us, still and silent, all existence. Everything else, form, is that which is created out of all possibility. They are some possibilities pulled into form out of all possibility. And these worlds are created by vibration. They can manifest audibly as sound vibration, but the sound is just a vibration. And these worlds work on different frequencies. So like radio stations can share the same space without interfering with each other because they're on different frequencies, so these worlds can share the same space without interfering with each other because they're on different frequencies. And only when they're very, very close is there interference and the possibility of crossover, and that will bring us to section 2 today. So this is cymatics, and what cymatics does is use sound, vibration, in different frequencies to create geometrical forms from particles which without the sound, the vibration, are just all over the place, random. Then suddenly there's a sound and woo, they move into these amazing shapes. This is how matter is created out of the void. This is as an example of it here. This is just sound moving particles around to create form, cymatics. And when they change the vibration, they change the created form. Going to be massively important in section 2, this. And so this reality is just a frequency range, interpenetrated by other frequency ranges, some which interfere with it, most that are so far away do not even begin to interfere with it. And so we live in our little world, but interpenetrating it are many other worlds that are very different to this one. And our frequency range, this is crucial to understanding so much that's coming today, is tiny. I don't go with the dark matter, dark energy stuff. I just talk about the visible and invisible universe. But this is what mainstream science says. Of that which exists in the universe, that which we perceive, the electromagnetic field up to a point, and visible light. Visible light is the only frequency range that we can pull into a world that the conscious mind can perceive. Everything else is beyond it. And the electromagnetic spectrum is 0.005%, mainstream science says, of what exists in the universe. Some say it's a bit more, but not much. Visible light, which is the only frequency range that we can pull into a reality we experience with the conscious mind is a fraction of the electromagnetic field. So, as someone rightly said, humans are basically blind in relation to what we can pull into a conscious reality from what actually exists in the universe that we're experiencing. Thus, this is our world. We can't even perceive through the conscious mind these other levels of the electromagnetic spectrum which technology can. So we have a visible universe which is tiny, and we have an invisible universe which is invisibly infinitive, infinite. And thus what we call a world, what we call the world that we think we're living in, is a tiny, almost infinitesimal frequency band. And if we don't know that, but that which is manipulating this world does, we are in an extraordinarily powerful state of potential manipulation. And the focus of attention I keep talking about, that this society, this crazy controlled society wants us in, is that focus of attention wants us only in that tiny band of frequency, visible light, and not to access the inspiration and insight beyond it through this and the greater mind that will give us a greater fix on what this visible light really is, because it ain't what we think it is. So if we come into this reality and we hold a connection to the greater self beyond it, what I call consciousness, then we've got everything we need. We've got the five senses and the body-mind to directly interact with this frequency band and to get a fix on that level of what's going on and to interact with it. If consciousness, the greater self, wanted to interact with this frequency band, it couldn't hold this because it's on a completely different frequency. So the outer shell, the body that we take on, is within the frequency band that we want to interact with, and thus we can pick things up and they stay in our hands. And so we've got everything we need. When that level of us sees information from the news or politicians or whatever, this level, beyond the illusion, is filtering in insight and intuitive knowing that goes, it's a load of bollocks, isn't it? Yeah, right? But if we don't have that filter, then this can believe it, and does. And if we get disconnected from that, and we only have this, where are we going to look to get a fix on who we are, where we are, and what's happening in the world? We're not going to go there because we don't accept that exists. This is our reality. Where are we going to go? We're going to go in this direction. And what's coming back? The newspapers, the education system, the politicians, the banks, and all the other stuff. This is what the conspiracy is. Isolate them in the five senses, then program the five-sense level of reality with a sense of self in the world that turns them into our slaves. That's the bloody story. And once that happens, we become bewildered humanity. Where am I? What's going on? Open. You see what's going on. Time and space. Oh, it's got to be time and it's got to be space, but it's not, it's illusion. It's a decoded illusion. This is why when you go into the heart and through out of the illusion, there is no time and there is no space, because it's part of the construct. See, if you put a disk, in, like a computer game, information into a computer, up on the screen comes decoded information that has scene following scene, time, and it has depth and perspective, space, and yet it's just information on a disk being decoded. And once we get caught in the time illusion, and my goodness me, the whole of society is based on time. What's the time? What's the time? Is that the time? Oh my God, no time. Oh. And that which is the greater self beyond the illusion does not happen or operate within time and space. It's just a construct. It is outside of the construct. Thus, if that inside the construct the experiencing level is caught in time and space, the passage of linear time, then it is already disconnecting on that level alone from that which is no time. And people say, well, and that's the idea. And people say, well, there's got to be time. But there's not got to be time. There's got to be decoded time. I mean, look at it. Look at the time we have. I mean, there's an invisible line in the ocean. And if you go one way, you go into yesterday. And if you go that way, you go into tomorrow. But it's not even bloody straight. Look at it. Hello? Is that little island in the Pacific? Yeah. Do you want to be in yesterday or tomorrow? Oh, time's real. It's real. And like I say, the whole of society is based on time. We're controlled by time. We are enslaved by time. Much of the slavery is due to time. But there is no time. Oh, but David, there must be time, right? Because there's past and there's future. Oh, really? No. There is one now moment in which all exists. This struggles to understand that because it's locked into to the illusion. Okay. When you're talking about the past, where are you when you're thinking about the past? Well, I'm in the now, yeah, okay. Okay, when you're talking about the future, where are you? Well, I'm in the now, yes. The future and the past are merely mental projections from the now. And we construct these sequences which we call time. It's not time, it's the perception of time. It's like a movie on a DVD. You put the DVD in the movie in the DVD rather, well, DVD movie in the DVD player, or what the bloody well it is. Anyway, you put it in there, and you play it. Now, after you've watched, say, 2 or 3 scenes, those scenes you've watched are now your past. The scene you're watching is your present, and the scenes you've yet to watch is your future. But the whole story is already on the disc, and your perception of past and future is dictated only by that part of the disc that the laser is reading at that moment, i.e. you are observing. William Blake, great English poet, writer, artist, said, "Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour." There is no time. There is only the perception of time, and it's one of the greatest constructs of the illusion. And it's interesting because, again, talking about this for years, and very recently, the University College London did a study, and they came up with this concept of fluid time. And what they found was, when top sports people, like tennis players, are waiting for a serve, or someone in baseball is waiting for a pitch, or a footballer's waiting to react to something, they start decoding time in a different way. They decode it in a way that makes time to them pass slower. Because it's illusion, it's the way we decode it. Therefore, I went to Wimbledon once, the tennis, years ago when I was at the BBC. And I only watched one game, but I'm standing there and I'm watching this ball come across the net and I can't see it. It's like a blur at best, and there's this person going, boom, boom. I'm thinking, I can't see it, and he's hitting it down the line. Because this is where great sports people come from. They decode time in a different way. Therefore, we say of great footballers, they seem to have more time than anyone else because they're decoding it differently. Time is an illusion. And it's used to control us so powerfully. The body is a biological computer. And it allows us to experience this reality, but if that becomes the sense of who we are, we shut out that, and then big time we are open to control. We talk about a computer when it won't work and won't switch on. We say, my computer's dead. Well, when we die, we don't die. The computer ceases to function, and the true self goes on living its infinity. There is no death. And what do you do when your computer, oh, my computer's broken down, it won't work. What are you going to do? I'm going to get another computer. Reincarnation. So, then you have computers going into sleep mode. Well, so do we. Well, we tick over on very, very little energy, except me last night. I never slept a bloody wink. And then you have the antivirus systems in computers, which are seeking out threats to the operating system to give them a smack and stuff them out. We have a fantastically advanced one called the human immune system. And what happens when a new virus in the computer world comes and your antivirus technology is not used to it, it can get through and destroy the operating system. What happens when people like Europeans took smallpox to North America and the Native Americans, they went down like 9 pins because their antivirus, their immune system was not used to that. Same thing, just more advanced. The DNA is the human body computer's central processing unit, CPU, or rather hard drive. The brain is the CPU. It's the hard drive that holds the genetic blueprint. And therefore, when you have people, and there are some doctors that have studied this, I know one in particular who's done a lot of research on it, they found that when people have had heart transplants, particularly heart transplants, funnily enough, but transplants of lungs and other organs, they have taken on not just the characteristics, personality-wise, of the donor, but also aptitudes and gifts, like suddenly they can paint well and they didn't before. And people are going, why? This is a mystery. No, it's not a mystery. What is downloaded from the donor to the receiver is information, which is now available to the receiving operating system and can influence the aptitudes, thoughts, and actions of that system. And this is the CPU, the brain, the central processing unit, which processes information, but the whole genetic system is processing information, and this, in its true power, is the biggest processor of information. And this is an enhanced picture taken at the Necker Hospital in Paris, where they put tracer dye into acupuncture points in, the acupuncture healing system. And I looked at that and I thought that's a motherboard. And it's interesting because what's passing through these meridian lines is what the Chinese call qi. It goes back thousands of years. And what they found is when the qi energy passing through these lines is not moving at optimum speed, it's too fast or it's too slow, then there is manifest in that body a mental or emotional or physical dis-ease, disharmony. And of course, what happens when a virus hits a computer? What's the first thing we see? Hey, my computer's ever so slow today. Yes, because the information is not passing round to optimum, so the computer is malfunctioning. The information is not passing around the body to optimum, the body computer is malfunctioning, which we call dis-ease. And what acupuncture is doing with the needles and various other techniques is balancing this flow of qi, information, to restore that harmony. So someone like Dogma, what do you think of that, Dogma? Oh, rubbish, rubbish! How can you put a needle in a toe to cure a headache? It's ridiculous. Okay, let me just take you through that, darling. These lines go around the body. They are circuits. And if the circuit affecting the head and causing the headache is blocked in the toe, Dogma, it's no bloody use putting a needle in the head, mate, is it? Is it, really? No. And that's the other thing. Computers and computer viruses, what are they? They are rogue information. They are rogue information that distorts the information balance and harmony of the computer operating system and thus distort the way it operates. When it happens in human beings, we call that illness and disease. Distorted information. That is what this is. That's what this is. They are distorting the operating system, the human body, so it will not read reality in its true potential sharpness and clarity. Therefore, here, in the holographic world of the conscious mind, we see food additives, stuff in water like fluoride and all the crap that goes in kids' sodas and sweets and candies and all that stuff. But if you take that down to its base state, these are all vibrational information fields of great distortion. And thus, they are distorting the information balance of the body, and that's how food additives and additives to water and all the other stuff cause mental, emotional, and physical dis-ease. And they're doing it on purpose. And they're doing it on purpose because they are freaking insane. And so, this white, black, sky blue, bloody pink, I don't give a damn, it's just a vehicle for experiencing this reality. And thus, it is like a spacesuit, a genetic spacesuit in a way, that allows you to experience a certain reality that you otherwise couldn't in your another state. And that's why this is, in terms of understanding reality, the ultimate freaking idiocy. Racism. Racism is making a statement or judging somebody by the vehicle, their infinite consciousness. By the way, the same infinite consciousness that you doing the judging is part of. It's hilarious. Because of their spacesuit, their genetic spacesuit. It's like two spacemen on the moon, and one is prejudiced against another one because his spacesuit is a different colour and was made by a different bloody company in some other bloody country. We would say that is ludicrous, but that is racism. It's ludicrous. It is idiocy. What we call humans is a software program. It's a software program, a certain software program that allows a certain experience within a certain range of frequencies. And the different races are just sub-software programs of the greater base software program. We should be celebrating uniqueness, not scorning it. More the bloody merrier, I say. I've seen racial supremacists, and they're not all bloody white either. I'll tell you, you don't have to be white to be a racist. But I've seen racial supremacists, and I think if you're the bloody master race, I'd rather be like I am, thank you very much. Bloody hell. And DNA just turns out to be a software program. Of course it is, because it's part of the software program we call human. The San Francisco Chronicle did an article on DNA. It said DNA is a universal software code. From bacteria to humans, the basic instructions for life are written with the same language. You know, the difference in the codes, A, C, G, and T, my codes actually are quite unique. They're G and T, G and T, G and T. People watching around the world, that's gin and tonic, by the way. But A, C, G, and T, and how these four codes are in relation to each other decides what your outer form is. And the difference between a rat and a human in terms of the DNA coding is ludicrously small compared with the difference in the outer form. In fact, if you're a politician, it's even bloody closer, apparently. You know what I mean? Yeah. And DNA is something else. Brings us back to the cosmic internet. It is a receiver-transmitter of information. And if you know that, and the target population doesn't, my goodness me, the manipulation potential is just infinite. So DNA is a receiver-transmitter of information. Now, you would expect crystalline input into something that's a receiver-transmitter. It just turns out that the human body is massively crystalline. The membrane of every cell, and we have trillions of them, is a liquid crystal. The Earth is massively crystalline. Every grain of sand is a crystal. And they use crystalline rock at the big vortex points, the ancient adepts did, going way back, because they were points of receiving, transmitting information when they understood the greater self and the greater reality more than many people today. And DNA is crystalline. It is a receiver-transmitter. This is an article on DNA that I came across. From the characteristic form of this giant molecule, a wound double helix, the DNA represents an ideal electromagnetic antenna. On one end, it is elongated and thus a blade which can take up very well electrical pulses. On the other hand, seen from above, it has the form of a ring and thus is a very magnetical antenna. Now, what if you knew this and you could manipulate from that knowledge, without the knowledge of the target population, what frequencies that DNA was transmitting and receiving on? If you could dictate that, you would squeeze, brackets visible light, the perception range of the target population into a tiny band, which will be very relevant in part 2. So we have mind-body, which is the holographic body and the lower auric field, body-mind. And the mind energetic level and the greater self connects into the body through these vortex points, people call chakras, it's wheels of light in the Sanskrit language. And it connects into the body through the endocrine system of glands. Now, two very, very important glands in the endocrine system that take us beyond the illusion into the greater reality are the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, which are part of the system that has become known as the third eye. What a surprise that one of the major effects of fluoride in the water and in the toothpaste is to calcify the pineal gland and thus stop it functioning as a greater self connector with a greater reality. They want to hold us in the five senses. That's why all these things are targeted. And the people, you know, putting the stuff in, they haven't got a clue. It's just their job. Oh, I don't know, not a reason why. I'm talking about those that are dictating that it happens in the first place. So we're living a false identity. That's why we are enslaved. We think we're men and women. Well, we are. It's an experience. It's a nice experience to be a man, nice experience to be a woman. There's different experiences. That's fair enough. But if we start identifying man and woman being who we are rather than what we're experiencing, then again, we get caught in the illusion. How can men or women be what we are when through hormonal changes, i.e. vibrational changes here, information changes, you can go from a man to a woman, like that chicken a few years ago, Freaky, that had that massive explosion of testosterone and went from a hen to a cockerel chasing the hens because of a chemical change. It's just a vehicle, it's not who we are. Same with our emotions, you know. Oh yes, it's my emotions, that's who I am. Well, how can they necessarily be what you are when you can be massively affected emotionally by chemical input? There was that woman a few years ago in all the papers who was a clinical depressive for 40 years, went into clinical depression out of nowhere, couldn't understand it, in institutions, out of institutions for 40 years, and someone asked her, interesting question, a relevant question, can you remember anything that happened just before this happened? And they said, well, the only thing I can remember is I had 19 tooth fillings with mercury. So then she had a mercury detox after having the fillings taken out and changed, and 40 years of clinical depression disappeared. And she would have said for 40 years, I'm a clinical depressive. No! That's a malfunction of your operating system. It's not who you are. So, it's a question that's worth asking. If the world's not solid, what's going on? Because it bloody seems so solid, doesn't it? Well, yes, it does. I grant you that. I mean, all these things look very, very solid, and if you bang your head against them, it hurts. But if you walk through fire, you get burned. If you believe you get burned, and you walk through fire in another state of awareness and you don't get burned, we are decoding the solidity. It's part of the process that we are going through to create this reality. Quantum physics has long shown this reality is not solid and can't be solid. They say it's made of atoms. Well, atoms have no solidity. As someone said, quite rightly, that if you take the nucleus of an atom to be the size of a 10-cent piece, then the atom would have to be about the size of a cathedral. And the rest would be empty space. Actually, it's not empty space. It's just a packet of bloody energy. And you know when you put a disk in a computer as the decoding process goes on to put it on a screen, certain processes happen. This thing that they call atoms is just one of the processes to turn vibrational information through electrical into digital and holographic. We live in a holographic world, illusory physical. And this is very, very important, because if you think the world is solid, what is solid? What's solid another word for? Limitation. I can't. Once you realize it's fluid and you can play with it, once you start to awaken to it, then limitation starts to be diluted. They don't want people with diluted limitation. They want people with a perception of total limitation. So this is a studio where they make holograms. Basically, there's a laser. They break it into two sides. One goes onto a photographic print. One goes onto the print and bounces on, collides with that part of the laser, having taken on, in effect, vibrationally, the image that they want to holographically take a picture of. And so what happens on the photographic print is you have what they call in holographics, here we go, waveform, a waveform interference pattern. And it's basically like dropping two pebbles in a pond, and the waveforms go out from that, and as they collide, that is a waveform representation of where those pebbles dropped, how big they were, how fast they dropped. All those things are encoded in that waveform. If you could decode it, it would tell you that. And this is a holographic waveform on a holographic print. Looks like a fingerprint. I would suggest that's absolutely not an accident. Anyway, all you do then, because that is waveform information. It is another version of the waveform construct of the whole universe, which plays out into this by decoding it. And then when you decode this by firing a laser at it, amazing things happen. Apparently three-dimensional images appear. And they look as solid as you and me, but you can put your hand through them because they're illusions. There again is the print, fire a laser at it, bingo, there's a three-dimensional image. These are all holograms. Another hologram, another hologram. Oh, God, if only. But I'll talk about her after we've had a bit of lunch. Yes, I've lost my knighthood, you know. I've lost my knighthood. It was the Satanism at Balmoral that did it in the end. That was the clincher. Anyway, this is a guy on a stage in Melbourne. This is a guy on this stage in Adelaide, and he is a holographic projection. They're using more and more holograms in all these different ways. There's an Elvis hologram there. That's CNN playing with holograms. And thus, this physical world that seems so solid is actually a decoded reality through the digital to the holographic. I mean, you know, you can look at a computer game and the best of them look real solid when you're looking at the screen. It's just information being decoded. The world is holographic, of the conscious mind. In 2009, after I've been talking about this and writing about this for years, I came across this New Scientist magazine, centre of mainstream science in Britain magazine, from 2009, and the front cover was, "You are a hologram projected from the edge of the universe." Because some mainstream scientists even now are seeing that the cul-de-sacs exist for all the mainstream explanations for reality. They go nowhere. There has to be another explanation, and a number of them are now going into the holographic level. But we're not. It's not a hologram projected from the edge of the universe. It's not. It's a hologram being decoded from information that pervades the freaking universe. That's what it is. And there's this other thing about this question that many scientists have, when they've seen that something can take a waveform and a particle form at the same time. How is that possible? Well, let's look at the hologram. When you have your holographic print, your information construct in waveform, and you decode it with the laser and it projects the three-dimensional illusory physical image, then you have the physical and you have the waveform at the same time. Not only that, they have to exist at the same time, because that is merely a projection from that. Take away that, you take away that. And the other great thing is, it explains so much, this one. The other great thing about holograms is that every part of a hologram is a smaller version of the whole. Thus, if you take a holographic print and you cut it into 4 and fire the laser at each one, you do not get a quarter part of the picture, you get a quarter-size version of the whole picture. So every part of a hologram is a smaller version of the whole. Yes, the smaller you go, the less clarity you get, but it's still a smaller version of the whole, and that's what this is. Reflexology and acupuncture and other alternative ways of healing can find places on the hands and the feet where they can treat organs and other parts of the body, because the feet, the ear, the hand are just smaller parts of the body hologram. Therefore, there is a connection between them fundamentally, and if you treat the smaller part of the hologram, you affect the whole hologram. This is why acupuncture can find, reflexology can find these points on the ear, for instance, which represent all different parts of the body. And palm reading and all that stuff is from this, because in that hand is information from the entire body. So we have as above, so below. We have the human energy field in the smaller part of the hologram, and we have the earth energy field in the greater part of the hologram. We have the hologram, again, expressed there in the brain cell and the universe. And as William Blake, in a greater part of that poem, to see a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. A pinhead and infinity are the same thing. This is just one point, literally, within the greater ocean. And this is what we are, a point of attention within the greater ocean. And again, scientists have said, how can particles communicate when they're billions of miles apart and communicate instantly? Answer, they are not billions of miles apart. They are expressions of the one infinite whole, and thus, when they move as the one infinite whole, their communication must be instant, because there is actually no space between them. And then, dogmas. Dogma's got a fret on now. Astrology. Astrology! Freaks! Rubbish! Well, let's have a look what astrology is. We see planets and stuff like that moving around. But if we go back to the waveform construct from which everything comes, this is just the holographic decoded level of them, they are information fields. And as they move through the greater information field, they are impacting cosmic internet, posting, receiving, upon the greater field. We interact with that greater field. So as the planets move, the information fields move, and affect the greater field, they are influencing us. And if we are locked into a certain point in this cycle, then we take on a different expression of that universal field when we connect with it, what we call birth. Some people say, when we are first created, and before the birth process happens. But therefore, we take on a different field, part of the universal field. So as we go through life, we are going to be influenced and be affected by the great changes in the greater field as the planets move around and go into their conjunctions and stuff, than someone who comes in at a different point and therefore takes on a different expression of that field. It's all energy interacting with each other, information interacting with each other. And when you take the holographic nature of reality, never mind the greater consciousness, even at the level of the body, we are a smaller version of the universe. Because the universe is holographic, therefore we are a smaller version of the universe. We've come a bloody long way from Charlie Smith driving his bus and Ethel Jones at the store, that they want us to believe we are. Then there's the digital level. This is another level which can explain a lot of things. Then now, this is getting closer and closer to our reality now, our experienced reality. They're now creating digital holograms. This is a mainstream media report about them, and it says, And they look real, so real that when Ford used a digital hologram to show off a car concept model, people stopped, afraid to walk into it. They thought the holographic car was really there. That car is a hologram. It's not solid, but just appears so. This digital hologram has taken it even further. Now, what are numbers? What is this digital level? It's the digital level of the universe that numerology comes in to. Because all these different levels, the waveform, the electrical, the digital, and the holographic, are all expressions of the same information. They just express themselves differently, but it's the same information. So these numbers at the digital level are number expressions of vibrational information states. And the ancients, when they used to build their buildings, and they used to build them under this sacred geometry, as they call it, with pi, golden mean, the Fibonacci sequence that you find throughout nature, they knew that if they got the digital, they call it that, the numbers right, the mathematics right, then they were bringing into that building certain information vibrational states, because that is just a reflection of that. If you get the numbers right, you create vibrational information here that expresses that, or it goes the other way. And they understood that. So get the numbers right, you get the information in the building you're building right. And they are expressing A, C, G, and T, the codes of DNA, now as binary codes, on-off electrical charges. Where do you find them? In computers. And so, what does this all mean? I'm not sure, but we'll see. What does all this mean? It means we're living a false identity. And it's that false identity that holds us in servitude. We think we're humans, which is an experience. What we are is infinite awareness having that experience. And once we self-identify with the experience instead of with I am all that is ever can be, then we're pulled into the matrix, we're pulled into the illusion, we're pulled into enslavement. You can see on the lower levels of the greater self now, this technology that can capture these energy fields. And of course, near-death experiencers who've left the holographic level have experienced some of these other levels that I'm talking about, and some of these other states beyond the illusion. And I studied this a lot for many years during my research, and the common themes that people repeat are incredible. This is one that encapsulates everything that I've been talking about, a near-death experience telling of what happened to him. He said, everything from the beginning, my birth, my ancestors, my children, my wife, everything comes together simultaneously. I saw everything about me and about everyone who was around me. I saw everything they were thinking now, what they thought then, what was happening before, what was happening now. There is no time. There is no sequence of events, no such thing as limitation, of distance, of period, of place. I could be anywhere I wanted to be simultaneously. That is who we are, and that is what the control system is desperate for us not to remember. And when we get caught in the telescope, in the lens, we can get caught in the illusion of time and space. And massively involved in that are the two hemispheres of the brain. This is a big thing in terms of the way we're controlled and enslaved. There are two hemispheres of the brain, the left and right, and then there is this bridge, corpus callosum, that's supposed to be the means through which they talk to each other. They have very, very different personalities, very, very different ways of decoding reality. Ideal, we are whole brain people and get the best of both. Goal of the control system, stick them in the left brain, shut the right brain down. So the left side of the brain is logical in its version of logic, and it is sequential. What it does is take happenings in the now and it puts them in a sequence. And we call this sequence time. And the faster it moves the sequence, the faster time seems to be passing. The slower it moves the sequence, the slower time seems to be passing. Thus, when you are in a situation you don't like, oh, time's passing so slow. Situation you love, oh my goodness, is that the time? It's flown today. It's because the sequence is being put together in a different experiential way. That's time. Oh my goodness me. No, it's the left side of the brain. It's, this is the big one. It looks at things in parts. The left side of the brain sees everything as apart from everything else. It doesn't see pictures, it sees dots. It doesn't connect dots, it sees dots. And that's what they want, is one of the reasons they want is in the left side of the brain. The right side of the brain is intuitive. The right side of the brain and the heart are very, very, very much connected. It is holistic, and it looks at wholes. It sees the connections between things. That's why they don't want right-brain people. And this is a Mercedes-Benz advertisement, fully enough, giving a symbolic feel for the two sides of the brain. This is the left side of the brain. Oh, I'm ever so boring. I love structure. I love hierarchy. I love lessons. Oh, exams. I love them. I love them. And this is this guy. Hey, chill, man. Chill, man. Hey, let's do a painting here. That's good. Oh, yes. What we want is both. Because you get people who are really right-brained and they can't function in this world. We need both. And this is a Neil Haig depiction of the two hemispheres of the brain. This is the structure. This is the hierarchy. This is the world that we live in. Because humanity and that which runs the institutions has been turned into prisoners of the left brain, that's why our society is a left-brain society. And it rewards left-brain people. You know, if you go to school and you take information into the left brain and you hold it and then you spew it out at exam time, you pass. Oh, he's ever so clever. No, he's got a good memory and his left brain is functioning very well. But you're a kid who's more whole-brained and looking at it from another perspective, and he'll look at this information, boom, 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 and he'll whip it over there and he'll look at it and he'll go, it's a piece of shit. And then he's punished. He don't pass his exams. And he whips it over to the left brain under pressure. A lot of them do and conform because it's easier that way. And a lot of people don't. Hello, is that Mrs. Jones? Yeah, it's about Johnny. Is a problem. What's happening? He's asking questions and all want to do it. Oh my God, don't do that. You know, Gareth, I'm so proud of Gareth because who was singing for us today, because he didn't mess about when he went to school. He didn't get C's. He didn't get D's. He got E's, right? And because he couldn't give a shit. And 30 years later, he's an incredibly intelligent man, right? And here's another Neil Haig depiction. What this system is set up to do, therefore, and what I've just described is part of it, is to firewall off the left side of the brain and keep right-brain people out. And left-brain people, therefore, are very suspicious of right-brain people. He's a bit of a bloody loony, he is, and all that stuff. This is the artist. This is the maverick. This is the visionary. This is the one that can see beyond the illusion. But they want the focus of attention in the left side of the brain. Hey, look, mate, honestly, mate, okay, I'm standing here, I've got reddish hair, I've got a brown bloody T-shirt on, there's a big word called doom on the bloody... No, mate, it can't be. I'm driving down the road, I'm going to vote for Obama. You know, I mean, the illusion is just so massive. And this is Jill Bolte-Taylor, she's a brain scientist, and she had a stroke in the left side of the brain in 1996, one morning, and as the stroke was happening, she was getting more and more outside of this reality that we call the real world. And what was happening is that her left side of the brain was no longer decoding reality as it should because it was malfunctioning. Suddenly, her hands didn't look like hands anymore. There was no point where her body ended and the rest of the room started. It was one energy field. She, in her words, lost 37 years of emotional baggage because the baggage was in the operating system and it was no longer being decoded, thus she wasn't experiencing it. And she said that during this stroke, when it was happening, she didn't realize it was a stroke for a while. She actually remained conscious for a lot of time, which is why she was able to retell the experience. And she said at one point she's trying to call work to get some help, but she gets the business cards. She's trying to see the number because she can't remember the number, but she can't see numbers. All she can see is digital squiggles. Why? Because the left side of the brain had stopped decoding through the digital into the holographic, and thus she'd gone back to the digital, and she was seeing that level of reality. And then she had waves of clarity every now and again, which allowed her to go forward. After 45 minutes, she managed to ring work. So she rings work, and the guy must have picked it up and said hello, or something like that, and all she heard at the other end was woof, woof, woof. And she said, I said to him, it's Jill, I'm in trouble. She's sure as hell, she said, I said, it's Jill, I'm in trouble. But all she heard herself say was woof, woof, woof. Why? Because the vibrational information she was hearing from herself, the vibrational information coming from the guy at the other end, was no longer being decoded accurately through to words that she understood. It was being distorted, thus she wasn't hearing it, because she only hears it when the brain decodes it. This is a guy called Stephen Wilshire. Became very well known. He's what they call an autistic savant. They find it very difficult often to interact with this world, but they have brilliant, brilliant gifts. And he became well known because the BBC flew him up into a helicopter over London for something like 30 minutes without a notepad, or not that it would bloody helped. And he just looked out the window, and he came back and he drew London from the air with incredible accuracy, even getting the number of windows in major buildings correct. And this is another autistic savant called Daniel Tammet, and he's got a computer-like way of filtering and decoding numbers, and also learns languages in a ridiculously short time, including amazingly difficult languages like Icelandic. He went on to an Icelandic television program 1 week and was challenged to come back the following week speaking fluent Icelandic, and he did it. And his language teacher said, this man's not human. Oh, yes, he is. He's the human that we should be if this control system was not suppressing us as it is. And so what the left side of the brain would do is go, Sam, yeah, Sam, team, yeah, that's right. What the right side of the brain does, which is where these are coming from massively, it goes, gotcha. When Stephen Wilshire is looking out the helicopter, he's not going, oh, that's got one bit, start, hold it, one window, no. His right side of his brain is going, gotcha. The lot, picture. That's who we really are, and they are expressing fantastic gifts to give us a reminder of who we really are. They are capturing or accessing deeper levels of infinite potential, which people are not doing when they're held in the five senses. And people say, well, you left school at 15 and you didn't even pass your 11 plus. You went to Crown Hill Secondary Modern. You weren't very good there either. Well, they know what they're talking about. Why don't they tell us? Well, I'll tell you why they don't tell us, because they don't bloody know half the time, because the funding and the structure of science makes sure they don't know. And singing from the song sheet to maintain your credibility within mainstream science makes sure they don't know. But also, the disciplines of science are looking at dots. This is my discipline. This is my discipline. And they fight for funding and prestige. They don't bloody talk to each other half the time. They don't connect dots. They're just focused on one dot. And if you look at the world like that, how the hell are you going to connect the dots to see how the world picture is put together? You're not. We worship the intellect. Boom, boom. Have you noticed? Not by accident. They're putting kids through what you might call academic type subjects, boom, left brain, earlier and earlier. You know why? Because letting kids play and play and play is ad lib, it's creative, it's imagination. Boom, boom, boom. They don't want that. They want them in here as early as possible. Kids shouldn't be going to bloody school at that age. They should be playing the wonder of the bloody world. Compared with consciousness, compared with the heart innate intelligence, this is the village bloody idiot, but we worship it. This is the isolated intellect. That's why the world's bloody mad. This is what the isolated intellect does. It puts you in these minute little bubbles of awareness, consciousness or mind, all that is or little me. Free yourself, not just free your mind, free ourselves from mind and the diktats of mind. Blank sheet of paper. Okay, from this moment, all my preconceived idea got to earn its place on this piece of paper by information, evidence, insight. I'm not going to put anything on this paper because you, mother, father, you teacher, you scientist, you politician, you bloody journalist have told me I should. I'm deciding what goes on my piece of paper because I am a unique expression of all that is. And I'm not you, I am me. Open your mind, open your heart, get into this in a big way later. And when you open your heart and you open your mind, you access the universal field beyond the illusion, and bingo, massive insights and understandings come pouring in. Not because you're a chosen one, not because you're special, not because you are Jesus who's come to save the world, but because you just opened yourself to that which is available to anyone who wants to open themselves to it. All possibility, infinite love is the only truth. Everything else is illusion. And this fork on the road, are we going to go with the head, which has got us into this bloody mess, or are we going to go with the heart, which takes another look at everything? Or even better, are we going to bring them together so they work as one unit in unison and we get the best of both? Consciousness or clones, that's the fork on the road. And when we open ourselves to the greater awareness, we start to hear and dance to the music of the universe that is screaming at us, listen, dance. I can't hear, I can't dance, I've got to go to work, I've got to go to school. And John Milton said, those who danced were thought to be quite insane by those who could not hear the music. Those who are closed to the music, oh my God, it's so sad. They think you're crazy because you can hear what they can't hear, and thus you see and experience and behave in ways that they cannot understand. It's not that one is right or wrong, it's that one is coming from a different sense of reality. William Blake, if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would be appear to man as it is, infinite. The conspiracy wants to make sure those doors to perception are never cleansed. And they do it through manipulation of our perceptions, through words, through religion, through education, through food additives that distort the brain and rewire it. And George Carlin, the great George Carlin, American comedian, he said, they don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interests. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 years ago. That's what they don't want. And what, as I come to the end of this first part, what we have been subjected to, not just these generations, but for generations untold, is a gigantic hoax. A hoax that has sold us a fake reality, a fake version of how we should live our lives, and thus they have enslaved infinite awareness in a perception of little me. And here's a short video. It is absolutely brilliant, and it encapsulates the point I'm making here. This is fantastic.
In music, one doesn't make the end of the composition the point of the composition. If that were so, the best conductors would be those who played fastest. And there would be composers who wrote only finales. People go to concerts just to hear one crashing chord, because that's the end. But we don't see that as something brought by our education into our everyday conduct. We've got a system of schooling which gives a completely different impression. It's all graded. And what we do is we put the child into the corridor of this grade system with a kind of, come on, kitty, kitty, kitty. And yeah, you go to kindergarten, you know. And that's a great thing because when you finish that, you get into first grade.
Woo!
And then come on, first grade leads to second grade and so on. And then you get out of grade school, you go to high school. And it's revving up, the thing is coming. Then you're going to go to college. And by Jove, then you get into graduate school. And when you're through with graduate school, you go out to join the world. And then you get into some racket where you're selling insurance. And they've got that quota to make. And you're going to make that. And all the time, the thing is coming. It's coming. It's coming. That great thing, the success you're working for. Then when you wake up one day about 40 years old, you say, my God, I've arrived. I'm there. And you don't feel very different from what you always felt. And there's a slight letdown because you feel there's a hoax. And there was a hoax. A dreadful hoax. They made you miss everything. We thought of life by analogy with a journey, with a pilgrimage, which had a serious purpose at the end, and the thing was to get to that end, success or whatever it is, or maybe heaven after you're dead. But we missed the point the whole way along. It was a musical thing, and you were supposed to sing or to dance while the music was being played.
Exactly. That is so brilliant. That's so brilliant. So, we're back to the little question. Why? Why is it like that? Why is the hoax? Who's behind the hoax? It's a multi-level conspiracy. Who is controlling our sense of reality? Well, the rabbit hole goes so deep in answering that question. And in part two, when we've had a break for an hour for some lunch, and we'll be back absolutely on an hour, because I've got so much to get through today, I will be going, in my experience anyway, deeper in the rabbit hole than has gone before in seeing where this is all coming from. And that's the end of part one. See you in an hour. Thank you very much. Thank you.
This break is for 1 hour. Please feel free to get food and drinks from the foyer during this time, but please remember the show will restart in precisely 1 hour. David Icke was changed forever in 1991 after a series of extraordinary experiences amid the ancient sites and stunning landscapes of Peru. What happened set him on an incredible journey that's brought mass ridicule, dismissal, but ultimately recognition that he has something unique to say about the world, the nature of reality, and the forces that manipulate and dictate the direction of human society. David Icke returned to Peru follows the incredible places that he visited on that first momentous trip, plus many more. A group from around the world went with him to the breathtaking Machu Picchu, Lake Titicaca, and other locations and power centers in this incredible country. This new and exclusive DVD is available to buy in the foyer now. Please just ask one of the sales assistants for details.